Get my glasses on here so I can read this message. Public speaking. Before I open the meeting, I want to remind everyone that if you would like to speak on behalf of this petition, you must sign the petition form on the podium. If there are multiple people that would like to speak, each person will be limited to 3 minutes. Please remember to keep your comments respectful and brief. If a concern has been brought up before, please refrain from discussing the same thing. Roll call from the secretary.
Mike Nichols.
Here.
Scott Highlander.
Here.
Sam Payne.
Here.
Charles Bates.
Here.
Isaac Chavez.
Okay, approval of minutes. We're going to have to table the minutes for May 14th and June the 11th because Isaac's not here. And not all that's here was at that meeting. That's what Gracie gave me that information before we come in. Members of the board, has anyone had contact with other board members or petitioners with the intent to discuss the happening of tonight's meeting?
Nope.
Okay. New business for docket 2025-008 and -25009. Petitioner is Jennifer Pruitt with Jeans Friendly Daycare Incorporation, requesting a special exception to allow 2 in-home daycares on a B residential district under a child care class 2. Don, present the staff report.
Thank you, Sam, and members of the board of BZA. The site characteristics is Tract B, a part of the Southwest Quarter Section 10 T21 North, Range 1W, 2nd PM, Center Township, Clinton County, Indiana, more particularly described as follows: from the intersection of the approximate center line of 5th Street with the approximate center line of Freeman Street, proceed thence north, assume bearings a distance of 365.75 feet along said 5th Street center line, thence south 88 degrees 37 feet 30 inches east, a distance of 150 feet to the point of beginning, marked by an iron pin. Thus, 1 continued on said line, a distance of 188.95 feet to the southwesterly right-of-way of the Louisville and Nashville Railroad, marked by an iron pin, thence 2 northwesterly along said right-of-way, along a curve whose chord bears north 31 degrees 56 feet 54 inches west with a distance of 138.79 feet to an iron pin. Thence 3 north 88 degrees 37 feet 30 inches west, a distance of 115.49 feet to an iron pin. Thence 4 south, distance of 116 feet to a point of beginning, containing 0.41 acres, more or less commonly known as 979 South 5th Street, also 1001 South 5th Street. That will be a part of the southwest quarter of Section 10, Township 21 North, Range 1 west of the 2nd Principal Meridian in Clinton County, Indiana, more precisely as follows: beginning at a point in the middle of 5th Street in the city of Frankfort, Indiana, 209.5 feet east, 365.75 feet north of a southwest corner, the east half of southwest corner of said Section 10, and running thence east 150 feet, thence south 66 feet to a place of beginning, more commonly known as 1001 South 5th Street in Frankfort. The request is Jennifer Pruitt, who is here in case you have any questions. She requests approval of a special exception for a Class 2 daycare center. In the Unified Development Ordinance, the references definitions of a class daycare or child care center, Class 2 daycare center, which may be within the operator's own residence or within a separate structure, which provides care for up to 10 children, excluding the operator's relatives, for more than 4 hours a day, but less than 24 continuous hours. This definition also includes a care of up to 5 additional children other than the operator's relatives, total 15, who are not at the center for more than 4 hours a day. Land use and tables are Appendix A on page M12. A daycare or child care center, Class 2 special exception in a B residential district requires a special exception. 509 daycare centers, all daycare centers, Class 1, 2, and 3 shall meet the following standards, except where noted. At 501.01, there shall be no modification of the residential character of any structure in a residential district. 509.02 states that state licensing shall be obtained and applicable. 509.03 states that all applicable state building codes and county health department regulations shall be met. 904.04 for a Class 2 and Class 3 daycare center, outdoor play areas which are adjacent to the residents in residential districts shall be fenced with a solid fence or plantings of at least 6 feet in height. And 509.07 states that only one building-mounted sign is permitted, not exceeding 2 square feet if any residential district. All other districts must follow UDO Section 521. A special exception may be approved under this section if, after a public hearing, the board makes findings of facts in writing that 1, the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the special exception will not be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. Placing a Class 2 daycare facility in a B residential district will not cause challenges to the neighborhood, as there is a long entryway that can be used for pickup and delivery of children. Also, the UDO requires that there will be no modifications of the residential character of any structure in a residential district, so both buildings having new siding and windows has cleaned up the residential area. B, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special exception will not be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. The special exception will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminish any impaired property value within the neighborhood. A, the daycare center is not open 24 hours a day, and per the state license does not allow them to have more than 12 children. And the play area, it is fenced in. I have written down in yours that the operators at the daycare center were living at the home. They do not live there. Neither home has any daycare signage on the outside of the homes, and I don't believe that this special exception will be substantially diminished or impair the property values within the neighborhood. 3, the establishment of the special exception will not impede the normal or orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties for uses permitted in the district. A, because the operators, they don't live there, the children do not stay past working hours, it should not impede the normal and orderly development and improvements of the surrounding property. 4, adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided. All necessary utilities are provided. It has a long driveway for deliveries and pickup of children, and there's no drainage issue. All requirements from the UDO have been met. Adequate measures have been, that's number 5, or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designated as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. Across the street is the Pilgrim Holiness Campground. If the parents use the streets to deliver their children and do not use the driveway, it should not cause traffic congestions, as only 12 children stay at each home. The back home will use the driveway to deliver their children. The special exception in number 6 will be located in a district where the use is permitted and all other requirements set forth in Table A1 at the end of this chapter applicable to the special exception will be met. The daycare facility has off-street parking for the owners who work at the homes. The driveway is approximately 90 feet long with 10 feet wide. 1 per child, 1 per 10 children on the minimum shift, plus 1 per employee on the maximum shift for parking, daycare facility can only have 12 children, which will require a total of 4 parking spaces, which the driveway should be able to handle. The recommendation and opinion of the staff of the special exception should be approved subject to the findings of the facts in this staff report. As noted, Jennifer is here for questions, and we are open to any questions.
Good. Hi, are you Jennifer? The only question I had was the provisional licensing in here is for a class 1. I just don't know the process. Do you already have the provisional for a class 2?
The state and your city are different classes. I own 10 daycares, 8 being in Lafayette, 2 being here. A class 2 is if you have to have an engineer come in and they have to have like 1-inch steps above to get the kids in with wheelchairs, things like that. That house is a class 1. It's just, in the class 2, you can do 16 kids instead of 12. So it's not anything, I think that on the license, that's for the state, and he's talking about a different license for the city.
Yeah, the UDO is the one that requests that.
So
They
are
have
you
not
saying
more than 12.
the UDO doesn't reference the state's classes on childcare?
It did not in this case, it does not. It just requires that they have a license from the state of Indiana.
Why wouldn't they have to follow the same guidelines as the state does?
Well, I mean, every city has its own development or own ordinances that it follows. In this case, our ordinance states that for a Class 2 daycare center, which we classify as a Class 2 daycare center, all the requirements have been met, up to 10 children, no more than 4 hours, but less than 24, and 5 additional children that only stay for a short period of time because they go on to school. So she meets all the requirements for a Class 2, what we consider a Class 2 daycare center in our ordinance.
So I guess maybe my comment wouldn't have anything to do with her. What our UDO should mimic the state's levels. It would just make more sense that way.
Well, I
That was
mean,
my
but
question.
what it does is it says that she has to be required a state license. So if the state license requires her to have a Class 1 structure, then she meets that requirement
So
from
1 is the
UDO.
lowest at the state level. There's 1, 2, and then 3.
I don't know that. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 1 is just very basic. 2 requires things like safety plans with parents or safety communication plans with parents, all the different egresses and ingresses and all of that. So that's where I
Yep.
was asking if
And our classifications are based on the number of children that attend the daycare center. So like if it's 5 or less, then it's a Class 1. If it's 10 or more, then it's a Class 2. And then a Class 3 is that if it actually is more than what a Class 1 or Class 2 has. So
Yeah, your guys' go by children's numbers. The state goes by structure of the home, pretty much.
Does,
So I have to have like 2 exits, not going through a kitchen for class 2. That is a residential house, so it has an exit through the kitchen and through the front door. But if I were to add an extra exit through the back of the home, it could be a class 2. I only have 12 kids.
does it meet the ADA standards, Don?
it does.
So they've got the right egress and degress ramps and whatever it needs? Okay, any more questions?
I mean, I think childcare is a big need in the community, obviously. I think it's a great thing.
If there's no other questions, I would call for a motion to either approve or decline.
I make a motion that we approve the special exception based on the finding of facts.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Scott, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Scott Highlander,
Aye.
Sam Payne,
Aye.
Charles Bates,
Aye.
Mike Nichols.
Nay.
Passes 3-1.
It passes 3-1. Okay. Then we go on to,
Mr. President, will you please ask if all the notices have been
so
sent?
have all the notices been sent out?
Yes, it was published at the Frankfurt Times, May 28th, 2025, and everybody within the 100 feet received the notice on May 22nd, 2025.
Thank
So
you.
that was approved. And before we start the second, I'm going to ask you the same thing now so I don't forget. Has the notices been sent out for our next docket?
For docket
Which would be according to.
009?
Yes. It's the
Yes,
same thing, isn't it?
same thing,
Yep.
yes.
So we need a motion to approve 009.
I make a motion, we approve docket 009 for the special exception based on the finding of facts presented.
I'll second.
Scott Highlander,
Aye.
Sam Payne,
Aye.
Charles Bates,
Aye.
Mike Nichols.
Nay. Still passes 3-1.
Still passes 3-1. So I think that would be all on that one. I'll turn it over to Mr. Stalk.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're doing docket 2025-010 for Ronald Jr. and Deanna Gant at 803 East Boone Street. The petitioners are requesting a variance of the developmental standards to construct a fence taller than the allowed height of 42 inches inside the required 25-foot setback of any street right-of-way in any residential district or general business district, nor within 75 feet of any street right-of-way in the roadside business district. The zoning of this property is B residential. The request is lot number 1 in Edgewood addition to the city of Frankfurt. The same is recorded in Plat 2, new page 75. The need for the variance arises as no fence or wall of more than 6 feet in height may be placed or built or installed in the side or rear setbacks of any lots. No fence or wall of more than 42 inches shall be placed, built, or installed within 25 feet of any street right-of-way in the residential district. The ordinance references 155.013 fences. Fences are permitted as an accessory structure in any district and required an improvement location permit. The height of all fences will be measured from the ground level and must meet the following standards. F in the ordinance. In residential or business districts, no fence or wall of more than 6 feet in height may be placed, built, or installed in the side or rear yards of any lots. No fence or wall of more than 42 inches may be placed, built, or installed within 25 feet of any street right-of-way in the residential districts or LB district, nor within 75 feet of any street right-of-way in the roadside business district. All fences and walls must be in compliance with the visual clearance area requirement of this chapter. A variance may be approved under this section if, after a public hearing, the board makes findings of facts in writing that 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. This fence will be placed to privatize the backyard. Ron and Deanna live on a corner lot, and by ordinance they have a setback that would make it hard to fence a major part of their backyard on the South Van Buren Street side. They have a 48-inch wire fence up now. It will not cause any visual clearance issues, and for the reason it will not be injurious to the community's public health, safety, or moral or general welfare. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The surrounding areas are Zone B residential. The Gants would like to fence in their backyard for privacy. Since fences are allowed in all the districts so long as they're installed properly and in compliance with the ordinance, it should not be adversely affect the adjacent properties. 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. By ordinance, no fence over 42 inches in height may be built or installed within 75 feet of the right-of-way for a residential district. If the ordinance is strictly applied, the Gants cannot adequately enclose most of their lot. Strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property, since the traditional 6-foot fence would not be able to be placed on a corner lot of the Gants' backyard. It is recommended that the opinion of the staff that the variance of the developmental standards should be approved, subject to findings of facts of staff report. So here's what's going on. They live in a corner lot. And by the UDO corner lot, both the side yard and the front yard are considered front yards. So you have to have a 25-foot setback off of the front yard, which from the street, which is also Van Buren, right? Van Buren and Boone Street. And so to do that, that means their fence would have to be placed about in the middle of their backyard instead of, I believe it's going in even with the back of their house down to a garage and around the corner. It doesn't affect anything. And it would be what a normal fence would be placed if they weren't living on a corner lot. But because of Van Buren Street, the 25 feet makes it move even further east than what it is because of what the 25 feet right away from Van Buren is. So we're actually going to try to adjust ourselves here a little bit and from this point on, because it seems to be kind of crazy that when a house faces like Boone Street in this case, that the Van Buren property should not be required to have that 25-foot setback on the property because it's on a corner lot. What we're looking to do is that in the Gants example is that their fence is going to be on the corner edge of their house. It's closer to Van Buren Street than it is Boone Street on the side. As long as it's fencing in the backyard of their property, we're going to be okay with it. Now, if the property fence line is going to be like within 3 feet of the sidewalk, then yeah, we're going to come to you and say, hey, we need your opinion on this. But we just believe that for the folks who live on a corner lot, they should be able to fence in their backyard as long as they're not intruding upon the sidewalk or so it's going to be within 25 feet. I just don't see why we can't do that. So, but by the UDO, that's why I'm bringing it to you. I just wanted to say that in their behalf.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many addresses do they?
Yeah, they just have one. And you know what, Sam? I'll be honest with you. We had this discussion the last time. And since that discussion, I thought all the way through this thing. And I agree with you. That's what makes me think that if their address is Boone Street, then Van Buren should not play a part of the 25-foot setback. I know the reason why it's there. If the house gets rolled out and they have to replace it and they want to change the house to face Van Buren, they can do that because it's also a front yard. But it probably should not affect fences. And so we've had that discussion this week, and we've decided that we're going to kind of try to change our thoughts here on some of this.
I was just curious because with 2 streets, and you got the mailing address on Boone, Van Buren should not be affected as a frontage for a house.
I totally agree with you now. I totally agree with you now because we're bringing a lot to you that probably shouldn't be brought to you. But, you know, it's this case. This will probably be our last one they're going to be doing unless they're moving in within 4 or 5 feet of the right-of-way. Then we're probably going to come to you to get permission because I really don't like a fence real close to the sidewalk for safety reasons for people walking on the sidewalk.
I agree with that, but according to the picture that they've taken here, I don't see where if they're going to follow. Are you going to follow the same fence line that you got right now and going to take that fence out and replace it with?
Exactly.
So I had a question I'm going to try to look up while I'm talking. Are any of the houses on Van Buren Street oriented to Van Buren, or are they all Boone?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't think that there's any homes that face Van Buren, is it?
None.
I
didn't
believe
think
it's just a garage entrance
Yes, sir.
2 years south.
Yep,
Yes, sir.
that's what I've seen anyway.
I mean, I live right over there, so I believe I know that that's true. I just wanted to check.
You weren't the ones setting off fireworks last night, were you?
No, but I know exactly who it was. You want to have that conversation online?
Oh, my God. Scared the bejesus out of me.
Looking at this
Well, no, that there is the house right at the corner of Armstrong. They do face Van Buren.
Mike, did you have a question?
I was just looking at this picture, this Google
No, it
picture,
doesn't. It faces Armstrong. I know exactly who it is now. Yeah.
Facing the Van Buren side, the house across Van Buren has a fence.
Yeah. Is that basically?
How high is that fence?
8
Si-
foot. Is it 6 foot?
Should be 6 foot.
6 foot.
Yeah, we have two, there's at least, she says two, I could think of three, that our neighbors that all have 6-foot fences all around us,
Yeah.
and their corner line.
I mean, if there were a bunch of houses that face Van Buren right there, and then we were trying to, I could see the argument for that's frontage for these other houses, but all of these houses were built facing the, what I would call the appropriate streets, so.
So how high a fence do they want to build?
6 foot.
I thought it was 8 foot. Okay, great. So that one there is 6 foot.
But they're within 25 feet of Van Buren. And
Yeah, I was just
we're
looking at
gonna
the
stop
house
doing
across,
that.
the house across from Van Buren and asking how high that fence was. That's the 6-foot fence?
And then y'all will ensure that the corner,
Yeah,
The
we
angle in
measured
the
that.
corner.
They're plenty safe.
Yeah.
They're more than 15 feet away.
That's what I was going to ask, too,
Yep.
Charlie.
those turning corners,
Any other questions?
I don't have any issues with it.
Mike, you have any other questions? Scott? If there's no other questions, have you done the notices?
Yes, it was published at the Frankfurt Times, June 30th, 2025, and the letters were mailed on June 25th, 2025.
And there's no other comments from the public, I would ask for a motion to approve this fence. Docket. 2025.
I'll make the motion that we approve the docket 2025-010.
I have a second.
Second.
Scott Highlander,
Aye.
Sam Payne,
Aye.
Mike Nichols,
Aye.
Charles Bates.
Aye.
Okay. Hearing that, we're ready to go to docket 2025-010.
Again, thank you, Mr. President, members of the BZA. The applicants are Javier Santos and Maria Alanis. They're in the back, so if we have questions, you can ask those questions. The address is 2006 West Green Street in Frankfort, Indiana. The variance of developmental standards is petitioner is requesting approval of a variance of developmental standards to allow an 8-foot privacy fence instead of a maximum 6-foot fence in a B residential district. The zoning for this property is B residential. The site characteristics is the request is 172 feet in uniform width off of the entire south end of lots 21 and 22 in the meadows, in addition to the city of Frankfort, Indiana, as the same is recorded in plot record 2, old page 82, commonly known as 2006 West Green Street in Frankfort, Indiana. The owner would like to place an 8-foot fence on his property as they are trying to provide additional privacy to their backyard. In 503.13 fences are permitted as accessory structures in any district and require an improvement location permit. The height of all fences will be measured from ground level and must meet the following standards. A, partition or line fences where necessary shall be built and maintained between adjacent properties in accordance with IC Code 3210-9. F, in residential or business districts, no fence or wall of more than 6 feet in height may be placed, built, or installed in the side rear yards of any lot. No fence or wall of more than 42 inches may be placed, built, or installed within 25 feet of any street right-of-way. In any residential district or LB districts, nor within 75 feet of any street right-of-way in the roadside business districts. All fences and walls must be in compliance with the visual clearance area requirements of this chapter. A variance may be approved under this section if, after a public hearing, the board make findings of facts in writing that, one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The owners, Javier Santos Cruz and Maria Alanis, have a protection court order against their neighbor to the east. An 8-foot fence will give more privacy so their children can play without being disturbed. This will not be injurious to public health, safety, or morals in the general welfare of the community. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Placing an 8-foot fence on the east and north ends of their property should not adversely affect this location. 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The parents believe that placing an 8-foot fence on the east and north ends of their property will allow their children to play in the yard without the neighbor disturbing them. By the strict applications, the parents would not have the privacy they believe they need to keep their children safe. The recommendation is that the variance of development standards should be adopted subject to the findings of facts in the staff report. I know there is one person here who wishes to speak in against this request, but we are ready for questions.
Ready for questions?
Yeah, okay. We'll start out with the protection order. Okay. My name's Andrew Matthews. I live at 2002 and a half West Green. My property borders where they're wanting to fence. It'll be on the backside of my property. That protection order they're talking about was issued like 4 years ago. It's null and it's over. It was from like 4 years ago. Lasted 2 years. It's gone. It's not even in effect. It's not even worth the price of the price of the piece of paper it's on. So there's something to think about there. They're wanting to put an 8-foot fence that'll just destroy my property value. I built my house in 2010, brand new, built it myself, put a lot of money in it. Sitting on my picnic table, I do not want to look at an 8-foot wall in front of me. And who would? Sitting on your patio or anywhere. Who would like to look at an 8-foot wall? Where they're wanting to put it, 3 feet off my property line, which we have a property line dispute anyways. That's what started this 4 years ago. The conditions of my protection order was kind of funny. Is Justin Hunter, Judge Hunter, he told me I just had to keep my mouth shut and not call them no names for 2 years and stay off their property. So, it was as you can see, it wasn't no violent protection order or nothing like that. So for some reason, they didn't want it then. When the protection order was filed or anything, they didn't want it then. For some reason now, they want to put an 8-foot fence on the back of my property, blocking my view and everything with an 8-foot wall. I don't call it a fence, I call it a wall when you go 8 foot. And I don't see where they have any legality at all to be able to put and request an 8-foot fence over saying that they're wanting their privacy. I've already went to the extreme and they're on back order of 2 security cameras, one for my front, one for my back. And they're wireless, high resolution, 360 view, 150 foot out. And I'm going to put one in my backyard on a 15-foot pole and one in my front yard or off the peak of my house out, like 4 feet, so I can see everything out front. I can see everything in the back. That way it protects my butt. Everything will be recorded 24/7. It's legal to do that. I do not need a permit or permission. But for them to come up and want to put an 8-foot wall and wall off my backyard is ridiculous to me. There's not been anything since that protection order was, and like I said, it's over and null and void now. It's long gone. And for them to come come to you guys now with an extreme need for an 8-foot fence. It makes no sense to me. This caught me by surprise, caught me out of the blue. I don't like fences at all. I have chain link because I like being able to see out. But if they put an 8-foot wall there, sitting at my picnic table, I'll be looking at an 8-foot wall. Sitting on my patio, which I have a nice patio, nice brick fire pit, barbecue grill and everything that I had built. I'll be looking at a wall, an 8-foot wall. What, it'll destroy my property value. Who else is gonna want that?
Sir, I think your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, well,
We've heard your,
exactly. So, I mean, I just don't know where they're coming from with this. It's
Okay.
just, it's out of the blue and
we appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you guys have any comments? Sorry.
Petitioner have any comments?
So, yeah,
So yes, we had the protective order back in maybe 2-3 years ago. We put it up because we couldn't take any more stuff that he's been saying. So that's why we had to take him. And then the judge also told us to avoid any of these issues, we should just do a privacy fence. So we don't have any issues. So we just waited because we had the protective order and now it's back on it. We're out there in the yard. I have a trampoline on my backyard with my girls. He's out there. Sometimes he gets his phone. He's recording us. I just called the cops like couple weeks ago, and he also suggested just do something about it or just take him back to court for all this. And I don't feel safe leaving my kids out there because he's out there recording, and he also is insulting and just saying stuff that shouldn't be. My kids don't even know what he's talking about. He said he called eyes on us. Okay, I don't talk back to him or anything because that's not like, I don't want to have any issues with him. That's the only reason we're doing the fence, so we can avoid any issues. And we don't want to take him to court anymore, and we just don't want to have always all the time just having a court order renew every year. So, or every 2 years, depends what the judge says. So that's the only reason we want to do it, so we can avoid any of their issues, especially for my kids' safety also. Every time my husband goes and mows the yard, he's out there standing for him. So we already had Moses do the survey, and so he already know where the lines and everything are. So and that's why he mows. So we just basically for us to stay out of trouble. That's the only reason we're doing it. If he would have just stayed like on his own thing, we're on our house, not causing any trouble, we don't have to go through this. It's costing us money, and so it's like it's not something that we want to do. He forced us to do it.
Okay.
So that's the only reason we're doing it.
All right, we appreciate it.
No, that was just comments from them.
well, I mean, I want to respond to where she's saying taking pictures with my phone. They
So-
were having a legal burn on June 12th.
That's not something that we can deal with here. That's higher authority than what we
Right,
can
but
deal with.
I wanted to respond to what they were having to say because
Indiana's a single-party record state.
Don, do we, would they even be required to be here if it was a 6-foot fence?
They would not, they could put a 6-foot fence up with no challenge at all. Yeah.
The only, we're looking for an 8-foot
It's,
fence.
yeah, because it's over the maximum of 6 foot tall. That's why they're coming here to try to go 2 more feet up in the air.
Yeah, okay.
Did you guys did y'all understand that in the process that you can put a 6-foot fence up without any issue?
Yes, we know. But
Okay.
the thing is that his house is a little bit high, so if we do a 6 feet, we still have the same, because he has a fence that's 6 feet, and if we do the 6 feet, his house is a little bit higher, so we still be able to see the windows and everything. He will still be doing the same thing, so I don't think it would really matter having
Okay, thanks. I was curious about that.
Okay, if there are any other comments, the public hearing will be closed.
Yeah, I don't have any more.
Well, I actually have a question for him.
Okay.
Would you consider this portion your finding of facts?
You're talking about,
Under your request analysis? Like, this is considered the finding of facts?
It is,
Correct?
yes.
So in there, you have that there's an active protection order.
I do. I don't know much about it. I saw it in the packet I didn't look for any dates. I didn't do any of that.
Okay.
So
So if
I
there
just-
wasn't an active protection order, would that need to be changed before we acknowledge it?
Well, I think that if I would have paid more attention or understood more about them, I probably would have asked more questions myself, because for me, you got to have a pretty good reason to put an 8-foot fence up in a property. I mean,
Because that's the first thing I noticed about the packet was that it's an expired protection
yeah.
order.
Well, see, I
4 years ago.
I didn't pay attention to it. I just saw it.
Not 4, it expired
2 years.
August of '24.
Yeah, August of 24, 2 years ago.
Yeah. So
I don't think. You guys have any comments on each other?
I have one comment. I don't believe an 8-foot fence is going to solve the issue.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
6-foot fence, like I said, and like Don said, and they can put a 6-foot fence up there with no issues, so.
Yeah, there's a reason we put a limit on fences, otherwise people would want a 12-foot fence up, because they don't want their second-story windows of their neighbor to be there, so
you try not to make their homes look like forts, is what you're trying to do.
And I mean, there's one on, where's that big one on Freeman Street?
Freeman
You
Street.
know what I mean? I drive
Yeah.
past that one all the time, and that's the thing, if we don't enforce the 6-foot, then,
You might as well just say, change it to 8 and go.
Yeah.
and for all of your other concerns, like, this isn't the venue, and I don't think an 8-foot fence is the avenue to address those, if you have concerns.
So do I have a motion?
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Do you have any thoughts, Mike?
Are there any other 8-foot fences on West Green Street that to your knowledge?
I do not believe that there are.
I drove down through there, I didn't see
I
any.
want to, is there one off of Blinn, right by the creek?
No, I think
That is a
that's,
6.
the only other 8-foot fence that I know of is on Oak Avenue. Right there across from Milky Way. They
There
put it
is
up
a-
on blocks.
Oh, because it's on blocks.
So it's on
There is
blocks.
an 8-foot fence on Jackson Street as well.
Where's this? Oh, that's down by John Large's place.
Yep.
Close to John's.
Yep.
That, yes,
Is that right up against the junkyard?
yeah.
I think that's why that one's there. Is it right on the junkyard?
It's right there before.
Or not the junkyard,
Yeah.
it's the,
If
That's
it's
the only other one I
if it's
know.
at the body shop, they'd be
'Cause they're
they'd
required
be
to have
okay
that.
to have that.
Body
Yeah.
shop, yeah.
This is a residential though, on Jackson.
Yeah.
No, well, he,
Yeah.
yes, I remember that.
Yep.
That was before my board time. Is there any other questions? I will ask the board to make a,
I'll make a motion, we do not approve the variance based on that the approval would be injurious, well, no, that's not right. I always have a hard time with this. I don't really know how to do it. I think it, can I just talk about it, then we can figure out how the right way to say it? I think it is, like, not consistent with the ordinance as well as the neighborhood. And I think he has a valid point. Having an 8-foot fence on a property line would definitely decrease the value of your property, so
I think that you probably could go to
would decrease the
either
value.
2
of
or
adjacent-
3 that on 2 that it would effectively substantially adverse manner, or you could do a 3, which is the strict application. So the strict application would result in practical difficulties, and in all reality, it would not because it's not allowed to be there anyway. So, but on number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent property, you could
would
do
be
that, but
substantially
you would feel that it would affect the neighbor's property. And I'll change that to read that.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to not approve the variance based on what
Based on
Don said.
number two.
Based on number 2.
Right.
It would,
Based on the value of the property.
yeah, it would adversely affect the adjacent property values.
I got a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. Gracie?
Scott Highlander,
Nay.
Mike Nichols,
Nay.
Charles Bates,
Aye.
Sam Payne.
Aye.
Okay, I think that a nay is that,
My motion died.
yeah. So I think what happened was what you should do is he made a motion not to accept it. So if you're in favor of that, you should vote aye. If you're not in favor of that, then you would vote nay. So I think
Yeah, I'm not in favor of it.
you're not in favor. So you think it's okay to be 8 foot, an 8-foot fence, and you do too?
No.
Okay, so then you need to change your vote? Okay, so if
For
you
a
vote,
6-foot fence,
if you
what we're
vote
asking for.
aye, then you're voting not to allow an 8-foot fence to be built.
Okay,
If you vote nay, then you're okay with an 8-foot fence being built.
So, aye.
Okay. So then passes 3-1. Not to allow the fence.
The motion passes,
Yeah, the motion passes.
not allowed.
Is there any other business to come before the board today?
We do not. If I've said in the past, a lot of things coming in your direction in the future. So, plan on. Hey, I do have one thing. Next month, our meeting is scheduled to be on Wednesday, the 13th. I plan on being out of town that day. Are you all okay with meeting on Tuesday, the 12th, and not Wednesday, the 13th?
No, I won't be here.
You won't be here? Scott? Will you have are you okay?
The 12th, that should be okay with me.
Let me look real quick, Don. You say next month on the 12th?
Yeah.
I don't appear to have any conflicts.
If it was not on a Tuesday, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
Horseshoe pitching?
Yeah.
I mean, we could host it at Dorner's.
Okay, bring it.
We could have it before you start.
We've got a,
State tournament coming?
well, it's a national.
Oh.
We're competing with other cities and towns in the nation. So Tuesday night is the night that we have to go through our,
Well, we'll also check with Isaac, and if we can get enough here, we'll go. If not, then we'll make contact with you, email on a different date.
12th is still good.
Yeah, I don't,
The Wednesday night would be open.
Don's
Yeah,
not
the
gonna be,
13th, are you?
I'm not going to be here.
where do you? I really can't be here at 12 either.
Okay. Well, we'll try to put together a different date. Maybe we move it a week back and have it then, and that will help actually Grace to get everything out easier too. So we may just move it back a week. We'll let you know in an email.
Okay.
Please respond back.
If there's no other business tonight, I'd ask for an adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
I second.
We got some papers to sign.
Let me turn off the recording.
Okay.
I just came in in case they needed me, and they didn't need me. You didn't